We are now less than 1 week away from the World Cup final, and that means we are less than 1 week away from the Managing Madrid podcast live in Toronto, World Cup final edition, Flatiron Firkin Pub, downtown Toronto, 4 p.m., few hours after the World Cup final concludes. We are coming back to Toronto, baby. We're so looking forward to having a Madridista party with you guys in T-Dot. So, congratulations to everyone who have booked their spot to the podcast. Can't wait to see you guys. For those of you guys who are not in the party yet, go immediately to the show notes, click on the link, book your spot to the Toronto podcast. Make sure your spot is penciled in because the room is virtually at capacity and we can't just have people showing up. You're going to be making sure that you got to show your ticket at the door and all that stuff. So make sure to book your spot ASAP to the Toronto podcast. We're giving away signed stuff from the Real Madrid players and official La Liga swag as well. So brush up on your Real Madrid trivia before you come as well. It's going to be a ton of fun. You're going to meet other Madridistas and party with them. It's going to be fantastic. Great. Can't endorse it enough. Toronto is just such an awesome city with so many Madridistas, and we really, really look forward to coming back to Toronto. So do that right now. And then just some housekeeping for those of you guys who want our thoughts on Endrick. We recorded a whole podcast about Endrick, his tactical fit, his price tag, our inside info on him and the deal over on patreon.com/Managing Madrid. That's about a 45-minute discussion. So if you want access to that, patreon.com/Managing Madrid. And then coming up today, we got part one. Lucas and I are going to talk about Reinier Jesus, January Real Madrid schedule. We're going to talk about Carlo Ancelotti to Brazil rumors and other stuff. And then part two, it's Castilla Corner. Ruben and Hridyam are going to talk about a bunch of Castilla stuff. And just to let you know, tomorrow is the big day. Croatia versus Argentina. If you want access to that post-game show, also on patreon.com/Managing Madrid. We got it penciled in right now with Jose Perez and Siddharth Ramsundar. The trio is back from the weekend. We're going to break down Madrid versus Argentina and whatever comes with that discussion. So go do that. Enjoy today's podcast. And let's get started with Derek Ray and Ray Hudson. Let's go.
Nice article in the Managing Madrid blog. Wonderful lads that do a great job there. And worth reading about that man there. Karim Benzema needs to rest, and the numbers reveal why.
Times ended up almost looking like a 6-3-1. Some very good writing about that on the Managing Madrid website. First-rate podcast as well. Of course, Fede Valverde was a huge part of the equation.
Hello and welcome to a bonus Monday episode of the Managing Madrid podcast. I know we said on Saturday that we probably won't record until Tuesday, but then, we might record on Monday. I wasn't sure. And Lucas and I are going to unearth some talking points. We're going to scrape the bottom of the barrel and get something out for you guys just to have something in your podcast apps for your commutes today or tomorrow. We won't leave you guys lonely for too long. So on a Monday, Lucas is here. Lucas, how you doing?
Hey, Kiyan, everything's fine around here in Spain. It's finally getting colder. Not that I enjoy it much, but obviously colder will be an overstatement for you guys, but everything better than in the summer.
It's bone-chilling cold here. Bone-chilling.
How many Celsius?
I don't even check. I just go out the house and just die of coldness. But I think like yesterday or something was like -4, which is just... It's on the warm end for what's about to come. We're going to get like the -20s, wind chill. It's just really going to be like, go outside to your own peril. Like it's,
But that's the lowest temperature in the day, like in the middle of the night or just in the middle of the day you're talking about?
Depends on where you are in Canada. Like if you're on the west or east coast, it's a little bit warmer. If you're inside, like where Toronto is, that area, or Calgary, Alberta, you might as well be on Mars. Basically, with an astronaut suit. It's insane.
Yeah, I remember when I visited the Niagara Falls many years ago. It was the coldest day I've experienced in my life. Yeah.
When did you go to Niagara Falls?
In 2008, I think it was.
Like what time of the year?
Oh yeah, it was December. Crazy man, right?
Is that your only experience of Canada? Is Niagara Falls in December? Oh
I
my
went to New
God.
York and then visited the Niagara Falls one day. Yeah.
Oh God. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Although I'm sure it was beautiful.
Oh yeah, it was great. Yeah.
But it's just very cool. All right. Let's actually today we do have time to just talk about nothing. But why don't we dive into some Real Madrid topics?
Yeah, let's go.
How much do you want to discuss the Carlo to Brazil rumors? How real are they? How much do we need to talk about it right now?
I don't know. The Brazilian outlet reporting, it seems to be very very reliable in my opinion. I think it's the most reliable media in Brazil, and it makes sense from a career perspective for Ancelotti, if you ask me. It, like I think it's somewhat realistic that Ancelotti wants to end his career in such a pedigree national team like the Brazilian one. It's obviously a lighter job than coaching a club, a regular club, and it will also give him like plenty of time to enjoy life and to get closer to the retirement phase of his career. So I see. I see the point. I see the point of both Brazil wanting Ancelotti, and both Ancelotti kind of wanting to end his career in Brazil, even though previously months ago he said that Real Madrid were going to be his last job in football. Again, it makes sense in my opinion, especially considering what he achieved last season with Madrid already. It makes sense to me that maybe he sees the writing on the wall here, and he quite potentially sees that his tenure in Real Madrid might not be that long either. So maybe taking on that very different job with the Brazilian national team makes sense. So I think it has some traction, those rumors and those reports.
Don't forget, he has not yet ruled out coaching Canada one day too before he retires. He's actually spoken about it. I don't know if it was joking or not, but we do know his wife is Canadian. He spends his summers in Vancouver. So I'm holding on hope, like Real Madrid till 2024, win 2 more Champions League titles, go to Brazil. Yeah, I kind of want him to just like win the Copa America with Brazil and then go to Canada for the 2026 World Cup. That would be a great way to end his career. But like, look, like even with this Brazil thing, he'll stay at Real Madrid so long as it makes sense. His contract goes until 2024. I still think he'll see it out, unless he genuinely will feel after this year, and the club will feel it too, that maybe he's taking the team as far as he can. This group of players, as great as any coach is, there's always ends to cycles because certain managers, and this is like literally proven, like if you go back into any sports, a 3-year cycle for a coach, as good as they are, usually after 3 years, it becomes difficult to continue motivating the same way you used to. There are exceptions to the rule, of course, but as great as Carlo was, the cycle will come to an end soon, and he is a bit older. But I also do think, as much as I don't really want him to go, and as much as I don't know if he'll go or not, but Brazil actually makes sense for his coaching style. Letting players express themselves, taking players under their wing, getting the best out of a very creative bunch.
Gets along really well with Vinicius, Casemiro, and Rodrigo, which is important. Militao also definitely. Big man management guy, so I have to assume he gets along with Neymar very well too. So yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense on all fronts, both for his career perspective, in the sense that this is probably his last stage in his career. It makes sense to end your career on a job like this one instead of Real Madrid. It's a lighter job than Real Madrid. It gives you the opportunity to enjoy life a little bit more and focus on just big tournaments and big games, which is also something that Ancelotti does quite well. His record in short tournaments like the Champions League, it's often much better than his record in long tournaments like La Liga and all that. So I think it makes sense on all fronts, and that's why ultimately, apart from the fact that the Brazilian outlets seem to be very reliable, all those things combined make me believe that this is something that has traction and has some truth behind it.
But I do think it's important to note that the report, even if reliable, it was nothing like concrete in terms of deals being done or whatever. It was just basically Carlo Ancelotti would be open to the idea of talking to them in 2023, and that's it. Yeah. So not to jump the gun and get ahead of ourselves, but it basically just it's telling us that it's not an impossible scenario if he goes to Brazil.
The only thing that makes me a little bit skeptical is that timeline might not fit that well, considering that obviously you want a coach like Ancelotti for the World Cup. I know that Brazil will be competing in many tournaments in this period ahead of the next World Cup and all that, but 4 years is a long time, so maybe the timeline doesn't fit all that well in terms of Ancelotti coaching Brazil for 3 years ahead of the main job he will have as Brazil's coach. That's my only thought that keeps me a little bit skeptical about it.
It's always tricky to deal with those timing things, right? Because from his perspective, it might make more sense to join closer to the World Cup, like when his contract with Real Madrid ends in 2024. From Brazil's perspective, it's like, okay, what are we supposed to do in those 2 years? Like hire an intern for one of the greatest national teams of all time.
Right.
It's like, we're juggling that timeline is obviously a little bit tricky, but
yes, sir.
Yeah, we'll see. Let's take a couple questions that came in through Discord. Yeah, as a reminder, we have a Discord channel. It is open to all. And there's also a subsection in the Discord channel, in the Managing Madrid Discord, where patrons can submit their questions. So we have a couple questions that rolled in on our Patron Discord channel. It's we're gonna take the first one from Young Reach 23. Young Reach says, "Hi guys, my question is, how are you guys feeling about Real Madrid's January schedule for when the whole team comes back from the World Cup? Villarreal, Valencia twice, Athletic Club, and Real Sociedad all have that potential to be a similar gauntlet like December 2021, even though the teams in that year were much stronger. And these are must-win La Liga games if you want to keep up the momentum for challenging for titles by the end of the season. My main concern is that the World Cup fatigue will be very real in those games."
The January schedule is tough. It's tough. All those 4 teams Young Rich mentioned are tough teams to beat, even though I think most of them are at the Bernabeu, right? Valencia are at you're facing them at the Bernabeu, I think. Villarreal will be away, I believe, and then you have Real Sociedad at home too. So it will only be San Mamés and Villarreal away from the Bernabeu. Not that it gives you any kind of certainty about Real Madrid's ability to win those 3 points in those games anyway. But yeah, it's going to be a very tough schedule right after the break for Madrid, and obviously Ancelotti will be hoping to see the players who didn't feature that much in the World Cup or who didn't feature at all during the tournament taking care of business and being 100% or 120% ready to do the job, because I firmly believe that Barcelona are not going to take their foot off the gas in this La Liga season, and Real Madrid will just have to be ready for it and take care of business while they still can. I think Barcelona did a formidable job taking care of these kinds of teams during the last month ahead of the break. We all were kind of expecting them to drop more points than they did, and they ended up beating all those teams I just mentioned, even if not in very convincing fashion like the match in Valencia and all that. We know that, but at the end of the day, they earned the 3 points in pretty much every single game against these 4 teams. So I think Real Madrid will just have to match what Barcelona did ahead of the break and just grind out and take care of business in whatever possible way, even if it means that some regulars like Tchouaméni will be tired or fatigued after the World Cup, and especially Modric too. So I just think Ancelotti and his men will just have to find a way.
So I remember you pointed this out to me on the podcast a few episodes ago, that the Valencia game, there's 2. One is actually in Saudi Arabia. The second one is not listed on Real Madrid's website. So we kind of assume, and I keep forgetting to find out what the actual thing is. But
that's correct. My mistake. Sorry. Just to clarify what I said. The Valencia game, I said it was at home. It was my mistake. This is the semifinals of the Spanish Super Cup, so it's obviously first of all not at home. It's in Saudi Arabia, and then it's not a game in La Liga. So the La Liga game against Valencia at the Bernabeu is match day 17th, and it's listed under February in Real Madrid's website without a date. It's not it doesn't have a proper date on the website, and it's listed under February. Not that matters much in my opinion. So I think that's just something La Liga and the Spanish Football Federation will have to figure out, considering that the Spanish Super Cup will also be in the middle of that month of January. We're talking about potentially, if Real Madrid advance against Valencia, we're talking about Real Madrid facing potentially Barcelona in another El Clásico final of the Super Cup in January, and that's definitely something that will make the month of January and also potentially February, because it will take away your opportunity to make rotations a little bit more. So January is gonna be very tough.
I do wonder what's gonna happen with some of these games, because a lot of these games are just kind of thrown in the calendar. Mm-hmm. Right now, for example, it's listed that we have Osasuna 2 days before Liverpool. Obviously, that's not going to happen. That's probably going to be about 3 days before. So wherever you throw in that Valencia game, it's going to be tight. It's just, I guess the point is that it's just going to be nonstop football, basically, and La Liga literally resumes this month. Real Madrid plays this month. It's kind of trippy to think about, but yeah. As to the question of how this affects the team after the World Cup in terms of fatigue and the players coming back, this question comes up at least once a month on the podcast, and the answer is, well, we're kind of worried. We don't know what that's going to look like. I will say, from just looking at how this World Cup has transpired, I personally was rooting for all of Real Madrid's players, but I'm not like heartbroken that a lot of these guys have come back early. It depends on what your expectations were from. There's 4 teams left now. Modric is still there. Tchouameni's still there. I will say, as much as Luka Modric is just an Avenger to me, he's superhuman. I don't know if he's going to be someone that you're going to necessarily rely on week in, week out for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
I think it's fine to think that maybe you have his energy conserved for the big, like, Liverpool games or something.
Yeah.
But, from the day-to-day grind of the Osasunas and Valencias and Real Sociedad and stuff, it's possible he may be rested in those games, or you don't expect a transcendent performance from him. Just because I'm going based on past, I'm not making this up, it's an assumption. But we're going based on what's happened, not only in the 2018 World Cup, but after every single World Cup that has ever existed. There's always a drop in form from these players who are coming back, especially the ones who go deep in the tournament. So, but we're also thankful for the fact that Cruz didn't go. Alaba
the Benzema thing could be huge.
Benzema could work in our favor, although it's still heartbreaking that he's not a
absolutely,
part of all that stuff, So I suppose we'll see.
Players like Ceballos and Camavinga will be huge and very important. Obviously, Camavinga stayed with France and is still there in Qatar, but he's not being a vital piece for the champ. So I have to assume that he will be pretty much ready to play and contribute when he's back. Although obviously he will be given these holidays after the tournament. So, but again, players like Camavinga and Ceballos will have a very big opportunity to show and prove their worth, considering what you just mentioned about Modric, which is 100% right in my opinion. I don't think we should expect Modric to be playing the Osasunas, the Valladolids, the I don't know, whatever you want to call the Gironas and all those teams during the first 2-3 months after the break.
I mean, it's pretty amazing to me how much Deschamps basically only trusts the 3 midfielders who start for him right now. Rabiot, Griezmann, and Tchouameni. He only made 1 sub in that England game. and it was Coman coming on the right wing, I think it was. No midfielders got in, even though there was clear tactical struggles in the midfield against England. I just feel like if Camavinga didn't get in a game like that, I don't know if he plays this rest of this World Cup. And the other thing is that I also am not entirely sure if Deschamps values him. Like in our heads, it's pretty clear, obviously. But does Deschamps put Veretout ahead of Camavinga? Does he put who else do they have? Who's the guy who started like on the left wing?
Fofana, I think. Yeah, he has the option.
Fofana, and then there was another.
Thuram is the attacker. Yeah.
That last group stage game against Tunisia, they had one of their central midfielders playing on the left wing. I need to get this right, otherwise I won't sleep tonight. It was someone driving is probably shouting this. Guendouzi. He was playing on the left wing. I just don't know if Camavinga is even ahead of those guys in the mind of Deschamps. I mean,
doesn't seem like it. Yeah. Which is, I don't know. The champs is obviously entitled to his own opinion and his own judgment here, and he obviously deserves the trust from his country because of the tournament he won 4 years ago, and also because of how well France have looked so far this tournament. But to me, Camavinga being behind players like Rabiot or Guendouzi or even Fofana in the depth chart is a bit surprising. I think Camavinga is a better player than those two, and I'm not even talking about potential and what he can become in the future. I think he is a much more interesting player than those I just mentioned right now already. But obviously, maybe the Shams wants more experience and more reliability in terms of Camavinga sometimes makes mistakes that could cost his team, like yellow cards or whatever. But again, it's a bit surprising to me seeing that the Champs doesn't seem to value him all that much.
We're going to take one more question before we wrap it here. It's from Jay Reed on the Patreon Discord channel. He says, it's been an interesting one. Why do you guys think it's written in stone that Reinier will not work out? He's 20.
It's a good point. It's a good point, and I get it. I get what he's saying here, but I'm just possibly talking about odds and probability here. And when you haven't played more than 5 to 10 professional games over the last 2-3 years of your professional career, which should be the most important ones in your career, especially since you're adapting to a new style of football and all that, when you are coming from Brazilian football to play in Europe, I have to assume, and I'm just talking odds and probability here, then Reinier will not reach the potential Real Madrid envisioned in him. He can still be a quality player. He's still a decent player for a team like Girona and all that, but I'm talking about him fulfilling the potential Real Madrid saw in him when they decided to spend those 30 million to buy him 4 or 5 years ago. I'm just talking probabilities and odds here, and when you haven't had a chance to play and adapt to a new culture, to a new style of play, to a new team in 2-3 years, odds are not in your favor, let me say.
It's all relative to me. Like when I say Reinier did not work out, there's a lot of things that are going through my mind when I make a statement like that. One, it's that he didn't work out up until now. And I just don't know if him like bouncing back and having a good career, which I have no doubt that he can do. I'm not saying definitively this is what Reinier Jesus is. Obviously, he has a lot of time to develop. Up until this point, he's gone to Dortmund and Girona, hasn't been able to break through in either team.
Exactly.
And you think it like, I always say like the cream rises to the top. Now, on one hand, it's Real Madrid's fault for sending him to Dortmund twice, not just once, twice.
Yeah.
The second time after it didn't work out, they kept him there.
Yeah.
Made no sense. So that's, the club has to own up to that bad decision, first of all. But also, why isn't Reinier breaking through and getting minutes also? Is it because the club doesn't see the value in him because he's on loan? They don't have the long-term interest in developing him, partly, but we saw Achraf Hakimi in that situation was good enough. We've seen many players that go out on loan and also play a lot. Obviously, like now we have this new system of selling with rights to avoid that problem, right? So that's a good step in that direction. But also in Girona, he's coming off the bench still.
Yeah.
And so he can still recover. But up until this point, he hasn't worked out. Also, the other thing is that it's all relative. Compared to what Vinicius and Rodrigo have done, he hasn't worked out. That's unfair to him. I get that.
It's a fact.
But it's what's happening. Yeah.
It's a fact.
So, and also working out as a career, as a footballer is much different than working out as a Real Madrid successful signing.
Absolutely.
So there's those two distinguishing factors as well, I think, when I say that.
Yeah, like what are the odds of him ever reaching the 30 million, 35 million value Real Madrid spent on him right now? Hard to see and highly unlikely, in my opinion. We're talking 30, 35 million here. We're talking about a player able to contribute in a top 5, top 6 club in a huge league like the Premier League, La Liga, or even the Serie A. We're talking about that kind of guy, right? I mean, you don't see 35 million guys being the starter for Girona. It's highly unlikely. We're talking about him having first to earn his spot as an undisputed starter and a star for Girona, then joining another club above that level, proving he's worth it, and then possibly reaching that kind of value. But odds are not very high, and that's just a fact. It's probably unfair to say that about a 20-year-old. But Real Madrid has spent 35 million on him, and I don't see odds of him reaching that kind of value at any point during his career. Very likely at this point. I think he can become a 10, 15 million euro player. Obviously, those players might still get a shot at teams like, I don't know, the Betis, the Real Sociedad, or clubs like this. But in order to be a 35 million euro player, you need to be a lot better than that. And right now, it doesn't seem likely to me that Reinier will be able to achieve that.
Yeah, and again, just to reiterate one more time, I think he can succeed. But like to me, like if I'm thinking about a player comparable that he could aspire to, and if he hits that level, I'd consider him successful. When we signed him, I think if he reached this level as his ceiling, it would be disappointing. But now when I look at it, if he can recover and get to the stage, like let's say if he gets to Sergio Canales level, I think that's like a pretty good, solid career.
Yeah.
But that's not Real Madrid.
Definitely exactly, and definitely very respectable. I mean, I respect Canales a lot. He's been a high quality player for many years now in La Liga. He's been earning his money every single year with hard work and dedication, and obviously with quality and vision too. But I don't think he ever made his debut for the Spanish national team, for example. You don't spend 35 million euros on a player who cannot make the country, the squad list for his country at his peak, So it's fair to say, I think that even if he reaches that kind of level, which might be realistic and also his ceiling, I can see that. I like, why not? I don't see the odds of that being that low. I think we can all agree that the transfer, the Real Madrid signing of Reinier, even if Reinier reaches that kind of level, can be considered a failure, in my opinion, considering the fee Real Madrid spent.
Yeah, I get I'm reevaluating basically. Like when we signed him, I had
Canales,
aspirations, but
how much did Real Madrid spend on Canales? I think 10, right? Like Canales not being able to reach the crazy expectations everyone in Spanish football had about him because of that great season with Racing. I get that, expectations probably weren't met, but at the end of the day, Real Madrid spent 10 million on him. So his career was, that alone, I don't think Real Madrid's decision to sign him was that big of a disappointment or that big of a failure. However, the fact that Real Madrid spent 35 on Reinier to me means that he should have been able, or he should be able, or at least Real Madrid envisioned that kind of level and that kind of talent from him to be a better player than Canales ever was. And even if he reaches that kind of level, which can be very respectable and very and just very good for his career, ultimately for Real Madrid, I think we can all agree on the fact that, the transfer and the signing wouldn't have been right.
To be fair to Canales too, he had injuries derailed him a little bit.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
But again, amazing to have a respectable career, all things considered. He bounced back really nicely. All right. Well, I think, Lucas, we can wrap it here. You and I will be back for a much larger mailbag on Thursday.
Yes.
If people want to submit their questions for that.
Quick thoughts on Vinicius Tobias, Kiyan. Curious to see, since you probably watch Castilla more often than I do. Reports saying on the Spanish press, and also I was able to confirm them, that Real Madrid are not so sure about whether or not they should pick up the 15 million euro option on him. What's your take? Obviously, Real Madrid seem to be somewhat disappointed about his ability to defend, or lack of ability to defend, if you will. So far, obviously, still a very young product, but Real Madrid not so sure about jumping the gun on and spending 15 million euros on him next summer. They would like to wait a little bit longer, or unfortunately that option to buy him expires next summer. So a decision needs to be made, and so far Real Madrid are a bit unsure about whether or not they should pick this up. I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Well, I think right now it's too soon to make the decision either way, and I think it took him some time, I think, to feel comfortable in Castilla, but now he looks pretty good. He's, there's maybe the defensive aspect of things, but he's proven that he's able to beat players off the dribble. He can put some good crosses, and he can put some great through balls in on that right side. I would pick it up. But it's still like a year away, right? So
no, just 6 months.
Oh, it's next summer?
Next summer, yes, sir.
Yeah. I would pick it up still. I would pick it up. I think 15 million in the grand scheme of things would be nothing if he works out. He's young still. We've seen players get better after they leave Castilla. There are plenty of examples of this in Real Madrid's history, that they just get better in different environments. I think it's too soon to say no to that. And if I had to decide today, I'd pick it up. But even 6 months is still enough time to see it up close. Because what is he, like half a year into his Real Madrid career? He came this summer,
1 year
right?
already, I think. No. Last winter, I think.
Oh, winter. That's what it was.
Right ahead of Russia's invasion.
Oh, that's
Ukraine,
right.
I think.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Real Madrid are in a tricky spot about the right back situation, and they were hoping to see a little bit more promise from Vinicius Tobias than what they've seen. I still think he's a quality attacking fullback, but we will have to wait and see if Real Madrid have seen enough to buy him right away with this 15 million euros clause, because again, Real Madrid they need a plan for the right back spot, and they need it fairly soon, considering that Carvajal and Lucas Vázquez both on the wrong side of their careers, if you will. Like, they're obviously in their decline as players, and they will not be. You should not rely on them in the next 3, 4, 5 seasons, if you will. So Real Madrid need a plan, and hopefully Vinicius Tobias gives them the ability to take this plan and to elaborate this plan a little bit in a bit more calm way, if you will.
I'd be interested to see. My instinct is that I would pick up the option. I think in the last stretch of games, let's say 2-3 months, maybe since October or September, from what I've seen from him, he's looked much more comfortable in the system. So
5-man defensive line, though, right?
With Castilla?
Yeah, at least that's what Raúl said yesterday. I think I reported it on the site today. Like, he said that when he's looked much better when he's had a 5-man defensive lineup. And
the thing is, like, any wingback will look better in that system by that same token. Like, it's because you can get shields
Absolutely,
defensively. Yeah. You can stay up the field a little bit more, but I still think it'll be worth picking up. But funny enough, we have part 2 of this podcast is Castilla Corner, and I know they're talking about the wingback situation. So, and they watch Castilla more than I do. So we might get some better insight too in the second half of this podcast. So we can also direct our listeners to go and listen to that.
Yes, sir. Nice transition then.
Nice transition, yeah. So let's let people listen to part 2. Lucas and I will be back on Thursday for a big mailbag. So if you want to submit your questions to us, go to the Patreon Discord channel. And the Discord channel, even if you're not a patron, is actually still open. You can get the link. So you can submit through there, or you can submit them directly through us through patreon.com/managing Madrid. And of course, to listen to the answers and listen to the podcast itself, you need to be a patron. So go to patreon.com/managing Madrid to access that. Enjoy part 2. Lucas, appreciate your time. Enjoy the World Cup games tomorrow and Wednesday. And we'll see you Thursday, buddy. Thank you.
No problem. Go Modric.
Hello and welcome to the Managing Madrid podcast. This is me, Hridyam, and I'm joined with Ruben. How are you?
I'm fine, Hridyam. How are you?
I'm doing well. Since I'm starting the pod, it's never happened before, by the way, and I'm only starting the pod because I didn't watch the game, so I was here with a list of questions for my friend Ruben, and I hope he answered them as well as he can.
You didn't miss out on much, to be honest. Let's just say that first and foremost. Not the most eventful game for Castilla this time, but it's still a very important game. So, still a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, Castilla drew 0-0, but at the same time, it's like, it's still 10 games unbeaten. So, I mean,
that's incredible. 10 games unbeaten. That's just. I didn't think Castilla were capable of that.
I didn't either. I have never seen Castilla play the way they're playing. I mean, even if they are not playing well, they don't lose. So that's a big plus, I think.
Yeah, and was a disappointment that it happened in this game because we played, and I'm always so bad with the opponents' names. Talavera. We played Talavera, and I always check the table before we start, and Talavera on bottom. They're only one team below them in the table. But I do see that they have they've turned it around. So maybe we faced them at a bad time. But all right, yeah, 0-0, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, even if we did face them at a bad time, it's like Castilla should have still won the game, in my opinion. Like, I didn't watch it, but from what I've read and from what I've heard from you before the podcast, They should have won the game, and
yes,
they just I don't know what happens to them sometimes. It's like these draws in the last 10 games. Most of them have been like non-events, as you said. Yeah, I mean,
well, but at the same time, yeah, they should have beaten them. But last 5 games of Talavera, victory, draw, victory, and then this draw. So, I mean, how they are almost on the bottom of this table is incredible. It surely means that they've started the season in a very poor way, and they might have turned it around. I don't know how good they are. To be honest, they didn't look that bad. They managed to keep the ball quite well, and they made some mistakes, but it seemed like they were trying to have the possession and trying to control the game a little bit at least. So it didn't look like this incredibly poor team. And Castilla did for sure not just roll over them. That's maybe Castilla did have some more chances, but in no way did they just crush them and generate chance after chance after chance. That did not happen.
Yeah, so you wouldn't say Castilla were unlucky to not get the win? Like they didn't...
No, unlucky. Well, for example, Alvaro Rodriguez did hit the post with the header. He did also have another good chance from another header, but unlucky. I don't think they were unlucky, to be honest. I think and this is something that I was already watching the game. I was thinking, what am I going to say in the pod? Because when a team plays like Castilla did yesterday, it's very easy and it's very tempting for me now to say that Castilla underestimated their opponent. To me, it looked like I wasn't the only one who had checked the table beforehand. It seemed like the Castilla players also were aware that, okay, we've had some tough matches lately. Now we're going to have a home game against one of the worst teams in the league. This is going to be a fun game, 3-0, 4-0. Well, I don't know what the reasons were for them not performing, but there was not as much intensity from the start. There's just silly errors. So I don't know if they underestimated them, if they are tired, if there was confidence problems. It's difficult to say. But even though they became better and better, especially in the first half, I didn't think they were performing any well at all.
I mean, the way you described it, they kind of remind me as an NBA team that I watch, like that I support. It's they're called the Dallas Mavericks. I think you know.
Mm-hmm. I don't know anything about American sports, by the way. So,
okay.
But you can still go on.
I mean, it's not. I'm not going into detail with the sport. I'm just talking about whenever they play like a really bad team or like a low tier team, they have this problem where they just like drop down to their level and they don't play with that much intensity. Don't defend as well as they can, and they end up losing or winning just about. So that's kind of what I see with Castilla here. Is
there maybe another team that can maybe fit this description?
I mean, if you're talking about the first team,
yeah,
then I mean, to be fair, like they've been like that for a while. But this season, I think most of the games they won, whenever they've played a mid-tier team, they probably they've won more games than they haven't, and that's not been the case for a lot of the last seasons. But I mean, I think there's been an improvement here.
Yeah. I'm not particularly talking about this season, but this was with the Mavericks you were talking about.
Yeah, the Mavericks. Yeah.
Yeah, the Mavericks. It's sounded like a perfect description of me watching Real Madrid over the last 15 years or what it's been. So, but yeah, so that was actually something I was thinking about also during the game. Is this just the Castilla players now finally they have confidence? They are facing a worse team. They are the favorites, and also. Sometimes I feel like Real Madrid are getting the first team. They're getting sometimes a little bit of unfair treatment from the fans because it is difficult to perform at the very highest level at all games. And of course, that's something we need to expect from the first team. We cannot, as Real Madrid fans, expect anything less. But it is difficult to maintain the highest level game after game after game. So for Castilla. Maybe they thought this would be a good time to not rest, but at least just save some energy in what's going to be a long and tough season. But that if that was the case, it backfired. But I also need to mention that it did get better in the second half. So it wasn't like it was like this all game. It seemed like Raul talked to them during the break, and it did get better after the break.
But the way I see it is like you mentioned that they've been playing well and stuff, but like at the same time their last like 3 or 4 games they haven't really even the games they won they didn't really deserve the win, did they? Like I mean I think the game in midweek Castilla were the worst team for 75 minutes and then they just scored 2 goals, won the game.
Yeah, because this was the game I didn't watch because I was at work. But so I don't know how they performed there. I was actually going to ask you that to just describe shortly. So you already said it. It wasn't that great in midweek either.
Yeah, it wasn't their best performance. Like they were looking like they were the inferior team. for 75 minutes, and then something just happened. They scored 2 goals, and they just regained confidence, and they won the game. They managed to win the game, but the performance itself, it wasn't as good as we've seen them play this season.
So what do we think is the reason for these performances then?
I don't know. Like, I don't.
It's almost
really
impossible
have the
for
answer.
us to know because we're not on the inside. But do you see any patterns maybe, or?
I think like there have been a few really weird like team choices. Like Raul's decision making when it comes to the lineup has been kind of like weird lately. Like Obrador has been really good as of late, but he didn't start the last game. Instead, Peter Federico started there as a left wing back, and he was atrocious. And he was subbed off at halftime, and Obrador came in. Everything looked better. Like, it's just like kind of odd to see. Like, obviously growing pains with Raul, I guess, but like, why? Like, I don't understand his like, I don't know why he's so resilient on just playing Peter at left wing back. He just keeps like, I
don't know, but I guess it's because he wants 3 center backs and he doesn't want to drop Peter. But as we have talked about, it seems like Peter is falling. I don't know if this is an expression in English as well, but falling between 2 chairs. Like he's not neither a left back or a winger. He's just in between, which doesn't suit him that much. But so he did have a poor game last time. What was bad about his performance?
He wasn't really tracking back. I think he left his marker, and in the goal. Was that the goal that we conceded? I'm not really sure, but he left his marker, and there was some miscommunication with Rafa Marin. I think that was the game I'm talking about. And apart from that, he was just like, he wasn't tracking his man. He wasn't doing much going forward. He wasn't doing much staying back, so he was subbed off at halftime. Obrador came in, looked really good, and I wanted to actually talk about him. I was on Real Madrid Fabrica's Twitter, and I saw that Obrador had a really good game. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he's been much better lately, and he's giving so much energy to the team. He's running up and down the field, and I still see him as kind of a limited player, but he is more of a proper fullback than Peter is, for example. So I think we have a lot of different options. Raul has also used Marvel, and in addition to Peter, as we talked about, but Obrador, he's got many options at the left wing back spot. So I think this has been a very good few weeks for Obrador. I thought that he was going to be left out forever after the first 2 games where he started during the season, and then he was making these mistakes, and Raul just didn't play him again. So I thought that he was just frozen out or something. But my biggest question is, you play Talavera, one of the worst teams in the league. Do you need the 3 center backs? You mentioned that he played 4 at the back during midweek, and maybe if that didn't work, maybe that's one of the reasons why he chose to play 3 at the back, 3 center backs. But 3 center backs against one of the worst teams in the league, it seems, I don't know why that should be necessary.
Yeah, I don't know why. Like, I didn't know he started 3 at the back again in this game. But there's no reason for him to really have that much defensive acumen present. You don't really need 3 center backs against, even if you say like they've been pretty good as of late, they're still at the bottom of the table. Yeah, and you could probably get away with using 4 defenders and like 2 center backs. Yeah, it's
at the same time, I guess changing the formations too much, especially when you you're in a good streak, you're winning, you're 10 games unbeaten. I mean, and most of the games we played with 3 center backs. I don't know how many I've been with 4 at the back, but I can understand if he doesn't want to change this winning recipe. But, well, it was just something I was thinking about. I'm not sure if I don't think that's the main reason for us not winning this game. I think there were a lot of other factors. It's very easy to just look at the formation. I mean, it's pretty basic. But it was just a thought. For example, Iker Bravo, if he doesn't start this game, it doesn't look good for him. If not even against this Talavera team, he could have played, for example, up top next to Alvaro. But well, yeah.
I mean, he did start again. He did start in midweek though.
He did start. Okay, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
he was really he was not good. He was subbed off for Alvaro Rodriguez and he scored. So I don't think he's going to get a start.
So did Alvaro start on the bench in midweek?
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. Well,
yeah,
maybe
he
he has a plan, Raul, to integrate him after all.
Yeah, maybe. I think Raul started the game with a 3 at the back in midweek as well, but then after halftime, I think he switched to 4-2-3-1.
Okay.
And things improved. And I was assuming that if things improved and he was facing a lowly team, like quote unquote, in the next game, I assume he'd like go for the back again, but he didn't.
Yeah, but this is a problem that I have no clue on neither the quality of the opposition or how they play tactically or nothing. I have no idea their identity. I just so it's difficult for me to analyze what Raul should have done differently. But I just think the players weren't that
keen on.
I think it was about the attitude maybe in the first half. I just I think they could have played much better. I don't think it was about the opposition. I don't think it was about the formation or the players. I just think it's maybe for different reasons they just weren't up for it. Then they turned it up in the second half, so they showed that they do have it in them, and they did create some decent chances and hit the post, and so it's not that bad of a performance, but it's worth noting. Also, just before I forget it, it does seem like we could lose Dotor for at least one game, maybe more, because he managed to get a red card in the dying minutes. A very, very, very soft red card. That was just a little bit of an embarrassment from the opposition player. I think Dotor was sent off for a punch, but you know what I mean when I say it was more of a slap. It was more of he just barely touched. There was no proper replay of it, but we could see that he's just barely touching the opponent. He falls to the ground, rolls around. Dotor gets the straight red. There had already been some arguing between the players before this, and then ends up during the dying minutes. I don't know if it was how many minutes were left, but the most important is that we will probably have to play without Dotor. I don't know how the rules are for these kind of actions in at this level, but at least one game, maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah, and that's a shame because Dotor has been one of Castilla's best players this season.
Yes.
And even if I'm not the biggest fan of him, he's still really important because he is everywhere. Like sometimes he's defending, but so many times you see him drifting to the wing or drifting into the box, receiving headers. I don't know what Raul is going to do now. I think he might go for like a 4-2-3-1 with Alvaro Martin and
for example Mario Martin, or he could also play VR. So he does have options. Theo could maybe get a.
Theo started the game last time and he was really bad. Theo started against.
How many things did I miss during the last game? Ike Bravo starting and Theo starting. I shouldn't. Maybe I need to go watch this game again because.
I'll tell you the lineup if you want.
Yeah, interesting that he tries. I'm gonna go to the last. Okay, so we played Rayo Majadahonda. Okay, all right. Another relegation team, another side who are placed in the relegation zone. Another Madrid side also, not Madrid-based.
Yeah. Do you want me to tell you the lineup?
Yes.
Okay, so
Luis in goal.
Yep, and Vinicius Tobias, Rafa Marin, Marvel, Edgar Pujol, and yeah, that's it. That's the defense, I think.
Okay,
then,
but Peter did
Peter
start, right?
was
So
actually
he's
back,
yeah. So that's
Yeah.
kind of a five. Yeah,
five at the back.
five at
Yeah,
the back.
I forgot. And then Dotor and Mario Martin were in the midfield, and Theo Zidane was also there. I don't know
Really?
what position he played, but he was there. And Arribas and Ike Bravo up top.
Okay, it's not that many changes, but
Yeah.
Edgar and Theo, Iker Bravo. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, this is also an interesting subject because how much do you rotate? Raul hasn't rotated that much, but he has rotated out of necessity because of injuries, for example, to Alvaro Carrillo and other
Vinicius
different
Tobias.
players. Yeah, so he has rotated a little bit, but not necessarily by choice. So during a long season, you do have to change it up a little bit to give players rest. So I guess that's why during the midweek game he chose to do this. That's probably something he has to do more, and the consequence is you maybe field a weaker team and you could end up losing points. But the ironic thing is that when he did now field one of his stronger teams, that's when he lost points. But yeah, as you said, they didn't play that well in midweek either.
Yeah, they just got the win. Like, I mean, it happens. Like you don't play well, but you get the win. I think that's the kind of wins that win you titles. But yeah, I mean, this should have been one of those games as well. From what I've heard from you.
Yeah,
but it wasn't.
No. So yeah, but at the same time, I'm not that worried. I thought I saw good effort from the players after the break, playing much better. And I was thinking Castilla now, I think they are a proper team. To me, they are a proper team now. It's yeah, so I'm not that worried, but and now it's also a bit risky to talk about poor form when we haven't lost for 10 games. But it's also, we shouldn't take it for granted that these points will keep coming if the performances are not so good. So yeah, it's worth noting, definitely.
Yeah, because Castilla moved up to second in the table, I think, after their win midweek. Mm-hmm. But now they're back to third because Alcorcon won their game.
Yes, so now they
had won.
Yeah, they're 4 points behind Cordoba, 1 point behind Alcorcon. They are 2 ahead of Racing Ferrol, and then 3 ahead of Deportivo. So it's a close race. It is not going to be easy to get this promotion. And if we had Chris on, he maybe could have helped us with how, if we do get into the playoffs, how tough will that be? I'm sure it will be very difficult because they have reached the playoffs several times during the last decade, but rarely have they achieved the promotion afterwards. So it's a very difficult divisions to get out of.
Yeah.
Something I also want to mention is that for those who don't follow Castilla that closely, I've already forgotten when, but there was a shift in the division system in Spain. I don't know how to call it, but so they changed it up a little bit. So if I can just say it in a few words, the level of the Segunda B is now higher than before. There are fewer teams. They changed it up so that there are fewer teams and it is higher quality. So Castilla doing this well in this division means that they are probably better than in many years. Even though that maybe they have performed they have gotten similar results in previous years, they are now doing it at a higher level. So that's worth noting.
Yeah, I agree. The level has definitely has gone up, and it's going to be really tough for Castilla to get the promotion if they need to be consistent and they need to win games. I'm not as you said, I'm not really worried because I think they are still they are still 10 games unbeaten, but they do need to win the games that are quote unquote easy on at least on paper.
What's good now is that after winning so many games, now we have during the last 3 games we have 1 win and 2 draws. But Castilla winning those games before is what allows us to have some slip-ups and still remain in the race. While before, this was the problem. We winning 1, losing 1, drawing 1, maybe 1 win, 1 loss, and then we could never get this winning streak. And those winning streaks are so important if we want to get the promotion. So, okay, maybe not the best performance now this week, but the good work that's been done beforehand will give us some time.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather they win, they draw the game than lose it. So
of course, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's not much else left from the game.
No.
But we do have a couple of questions from some of our followers on
Yes,
Twitter.
I asked on Twitter. I didn't give them many minutes, to be honest. But I also asked on Discord. To be honest, I haven't noticed. I'm not sure how much promotion there's been around this Discord of Managing Madrid, but so I've asked a question there, and you have them. I sent them to you, right?
Yes, you did. I can read them out for you if you want.
Yes.
Okay. One of the questions was actually kind of something it's about Vinicius Tobias, right?
Yes.
So, at 91 Slander asked, "What do you think happens with Tobias?" I assume he means after, what happens to him in terms of whether he stays with the team or not, or if he gets promoted to the first team. Yeah.
I would say if I just had to choose between, there are just 2 options. 1, Real Madrid activate this clause of 18 million, which I think it is, or B, they let him go. I think them letting him go is more likely. But of course, if Vinicius Tobias likes it at Real Madrid, he feels that they believe in him, and they do believe in him. The club wants to keep him. I think it's a good possibility that they will at least try to sign him at a lower cost. I think that should be possible. I think it should be possible to negotiate and maybe sign him for a little bit less, maybe closer to 10 million. But even 10 million, it's a lot or is it a lot? Because Vinicius Tobias, he has improved lately. He also in this game, he creates chances, good crosses, good on the ball. Still very young fullback. I think if I had to bet on it, maybe I would say he stays if we could negotiate and get the transfer fee a little bit lower. If we can manage to do that, I think it's a good chance of him staying.
Interesting. Because from what I read about Vinicius Tobias' performance in this game on Real Madrid Fabrica, he was pretty good from what I read. And I didn't watch this game, but I watched the midweek one, and he was the best player on the pitch.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, he was defending well. He was going forward. He had the assist to the first goal, I think.
Yeah.
And it was a really good pass. You should watch the
I watched goals. The goals. Yeah.
So I think he's slowly improving as a player, and obviously he's very raw. He's really young, but I think that Real Madrid do believe in him at least a little bit, and I think they might if this form continues to the end of the season and he keeps improving, I think they might try to not like until the end of the loan spell, I guess. They might try to sign him permanently. But yeah, as you said, 18 million is still a lot of money. So I think they'll try to negotiate if that is possible. But if it isn't, then I mean, I still put my money on them going and just sealing the deal, because what if he what if he takes a really like massive leap in the next 2 seasons and becomes at least a rotation player for the first team? Who knows?
Yeah. And also we gotta consider that the market for fullbacks is always difficult to sign a top fullback, and
exactly.
There are now rumors. Oh, this is an interesting question, which we didn't get this. We have to answer the other one as well. But there are rumors that Real Madrid will sign another Brazilian. He's just 16 years old, Endrick. And do you think he will be, if he ends up at Real Madrid, will he be a Castilla player first and foremost in his first year in Spain?
I don't think so, because 72 million. I mean, it's a lot of money, and like, okay, maybe because like it depends on. I think it depends on the players that the first team has in his position, because even if he's like really young, they are still signing him for 72 million. I don't think they're gonna put him.
Yeah, but I think Rodrigo was, if you include the taxes and everything, I think it was almost 56 million or something, and Vinicius 45. I'm not 100% sure, but what the reason for Endrick being this expensive is that we have to trigger the clause, and then because of triggering the clause, we have to pay taxes. So instead of having to pay just 60 billion, which I think is his release clause, by forcingly activating it, if that's a word, we have to pay 72. So I mean, it's a big sum, but it's also not that much of a difference to Vinicius and Rodrigo, who did start playing with Castilla. And although I don't think Endrick will be like just playing with Castilla and training with Raul and never being with the first team group, I don't think that's going to happen. But I think it's a good chance of him at least being registered with Castilla, getting a number 26 or over with the first team, and playing with Castilla, and then getting some minutes here and there with the first team. So that's one of the very good sides of following Castilla, to watch these young players if they get minutes for Castilla. I remember how much Vinicius and also Rodrigo tore up the Segunda B playing there. It's just that's. I have to go back. I don't remember perfectly, but I remember one game. I think maybe we started with Vinicius, Rodrigo, and Takefusa Kubo in the same Castilla lineup. I'm pretty sure that was those three. So I don't think we'll get a replay of that, but yeah, it would be interesting to see Endrick with Castilla.
Wasn't it Reinier who played instead of?
Reinier. Yeah. He also played. Yeah. But he only played for he played for a very short time, because I think we signed him in January 2020, and then the COVID hits. Wasn't that because I think, and then Castilla didn't play for the rest of the season, so he didn't play much. But I really liked Reinier at Castilla so much that I actually still believe in him, even though his career has not gone well. So, but yeah, it's a very good positive of following Castilla, just watching these young players at this level.
Yeah, I mean, like now that I think about it, I do think he might play at least a bit with Castilla, because I completely forgot how much we paid for Rodrigo.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time,
yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think at the same time I don't think he's gonna play that much, because it depends. Like as I said, it depends on the condition of the first team. If Benzema declines and he or if he's not there, I think, and if we don't sign anyone to replace him, I think Endrick would get a lot of minutes.
Yeah, could be. And also, just if people don't know, for Castilla, it works this way. If you play 10 games or less for the first team, I think maybe when you play your 10th game for the first team, you can no longer play with Castilla. But until then, Endrick could, for example, be called up to the first team Saturday, and then if he doesn't get minutes, play for Castilla Sunday. I think that's how it works until he gets his 10th game for the first team. Then he can no longer play with Castilla. But I think it's a no-brainer to register him for Castilla first, and then he could get some experience in Spanish lower divisions and get some confidence there, hopefully. Still a long way. First, we have to wait 2 years, and then we have to be sure that we actually do sign him. But it does look very likely, so it's fun to speculate how
I think it's already
impact Castilla.
I think it's almost done because Fabrizio Romano tweeted it like a few days ago. I think it should
looks
be.
Like it's just the paperwork.
Yeah. But I mean, at the same time, I mean, like, I do think. I mean, I didn't think about the whole experience in Spain thing when I said that maybe he shouldn't be. He wouldn't play for Castilla that much, but he's still he might play a few games, but. At the same time, I think his 10th game from Madrid would come a bit sooner than, some other players for
I
Castilla.
think either way, I think it's a great thing to start them, to at least register them with Castilla and then see how it goes, because gives them less pressure to perform right away. And just if, let's say, Real Madrid sign Mbappe, Haaland, which is not that unlikely in 2024, which is when Endrick could arrive, when he's allowed to arrive in Europe. It's not necessarily going to be a lot of minutes for an 18-year-old. Yes, there's a lot of hype around him now, but I don't think it's a given that he will just walk into the first team. And Vinicius, it did happen with Vinicius pretty quickly, but that was very different circumstances with the Solari and everything, the chaotic season. So I think it's a very good thing if it happens. I like that Real Madrid have the possibility of registering them with the Castilla. So yeah, let's see. But it's a big. I remember last time when we spoke about this, and Rodrigo and Vinicius and all of them were playing. How much are all of the other players in the Segunda B? How much are they worth together, and then how much is Endrick worth just alone? 72 million. It's it's a very big difference. And Sam has talked also a lot about the ethics of this. So,
I mean, imagine he's just he plays 5 or 6 games, scores 15 goals. I mean, there's a possibility if he's that good.
To be honest, it's more difficult than most people think to play in this.
I know. I mean, I'm just I was throwing words away, but at the same time, if he is as good as people say he is.
Yeah, but because you are onto something, because I remember Vinicius, the very few games he did play, he was scoring long shots, free kicks, and he was getting bitten in the head, and he was everything. Was
I remember
happening.
that.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how much Endrick, how it would perform, but now it's a good thought experiment.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how that goes.
Do you think we should sign him? Just not about the Castilla or anything. Do you think the club should sign Endrick?
I do think so, because it's with youngsters with such potential as Endrick. I think it's obviously it's a gamble. 72 million is still a lot of money, but at the same time, I mean, you have to look at the other side of things. If it pays out, if it pays off, you have a potentially world class player on your team. And if it doesn't pay off, it doesn't pay off, because Reinier didn't pay off, but Vinicius did, and Rodrigo has been playing really well. So I mean, you take the chances with young players. I think that's how it goes. So
I agree.
I'm okay with this move.
The only thing is, and I will admit that I was very skeptical about signing Vinicius, because he was I think he was also just 16, 17 or something like that. So, yeah, and he, like Endrick, had just made his debut, I think, in the top flight of Brazil. So I was very skeptical back then. Now I do see the upside, and I do absolutely think that we should sign Endrick. The only thing is that let's say you sign Vinicius for 45 million. and it doesn't work out that well. I think with the potential of Vinicius, Rodrigo, Endrick, those kind of talents, I think it's very unlikely that they will. Well, Real Madrid could have sold Borja Mayoral for 20 million, so that they will in like 5 years be worth at least 20, 30 million. I think that's a very good chance of that happening. So if you sign a player for 45, it's getting at least the money back will be. It's a good chance of that. If you sign a player for 72, there is a bigger economic risk for sure. I mean, I don't think it's a given that Endrick will be worth that kind of money in a few years.
It's not a given.
I think it's likely, and I think it's enough of a chance that we should go for it. But 72 million, it is a lot of money. So if he flops completely, and we will sell him for 10 million or something, that's a big loss. So something to consider, of course. But I do think it's worth taking the risk.
Yeah, of course. Like there's obviously a huge gamble involved, but if it pays off, it pays off. If it doesn't, then you can't not take this opportunity, I guess, because if he turns out to be as good as people think he would, 72 million, it's a good amount. Like it's obviously a lot of money for a youngster. It's a lot of money for any player, any age. But if it works out, then who cares?
The thing is, if it works out, like with Vinicius, how much would we sell Vinicius for now? What kind of offer would it have to be for us to accept selling Vinicius? I mean,
I don't think.
Would you sell for 200 million, for example? I mean, we gotta speak of those figures for us to even consider it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I wouldn't.
No chance we would sell for 100, for example.
Oh, 100? No, definitely not. No. I think it's definitely like, I think his market value is like around 100 million, and he has a 6-year contract with us, or a 5-year contract with us. So I think that also adds up. And I don't really think. I mean, if you're only talking like hypotheticals, that I don't think we even consider anything below 180, 200.
Yeah, I agree. I think,
but I don't think we sell him. Like, there's no way Madrid are going to sell him. He's like Perez's prodigal son, man.
Yeah. And also, it's just the problem now. There's so much money in the market with Newcastle in Saudi Arabia, PSG, Qatar. Them pumping all this money into the sport means that there's so much money that there are only so many. There's just a few quality top quality players. Mm-hmm. So there's no way Manchester City wouldn't sell De Bruyne, at least in his prime years. Let's say 27-year-old Kevin De Bruyne. Just Manchester City wouldn't sell him. They just wouldn't sell him. It would take an incredible amount for them to even consider it. It's not on the table. Same with Mbappe. Real Madrid sent an offer. He has 1 year left in his contract, and Real Madrid offer 200 million for a player with 1 year left in his contract. He was very clear that he wanted to leave at that point. Didn't happen, of course. So it was worth the gamble for them. But that's the place we are now. So much money, but the clubs don't need the money, because if you take the money, okay, who will you use the money on? There's no players to. Yeah, it's impossible to replace those kind of players. So yeah, that's why Real Madrid have to go this route, and I think there will be a lot of reactions, but I think it's the right move.
I agree. We do have one more question.
Yes.
Let me see. Yeah, so with the World Cup coming to an end, Supercopa and Club World Cup coming up, will we see any call-ups from Castilla? Would be awesome to see Arribas, Vinicius Tobias, Eduardo Rodriguez, or Iker Bravo get some minutes with the intense schedule coming up.
Yeah, I think Thank you to Silver Viper 53,
Silver Viper
53
yeah.
for phrasing it like, will we get any call-ups? That's a very comfortable question, because I think, yes, we will see a call-up. That's very, I think that's a given. I will be very surprised if that doesn't happen, but will they get minutes? Will they get starts? Will they get important minutes coming off the bench? That's another question. And unfortunately, I think my answer to, if it's just to get into the squad, get called up to the squad, I think yes, for sure. If it's getting important minutes, I would say almost certainly not, because I know Ancelotti. He's a manager who prioritizes giving minutes to the first team players, and then after that, it would have to take a lot of injuries. I think, for example, Mariano is way ahead of Alvaro Rodriguez or Iker Bravo. I don't think, even though they could be the future of the club, I don't see Ancelotti prioritizing what is pretty much our B team. And I can understand that policy. So I would hope to see Arribas and the other guys, but I think it would take injuries, which could also happen, of course. But I don't think it's very likely.
Yeah, I'm of the same opinion. I think out of all the players, Arribas has the biggest chance of getting some minutes with the first team. But at the same time, it's like Ancelotti doesn't like that. I don't know why. He just doesn't like trusting his academy players. But at the same time, like, I mean, if there's any player on the Castilla team, it's Arribas who would get the minutes. But it's unlikely, as you said, that we'd see anyone play significant minutes.
Yeah, I think maybe Vinicius Tobias as a wingback could be an option. I think I remember during the Mourinho years, for example, Fabinho, he was at Castilla for a brief spell, and he got his debut ahead of many other Castilla players back then, because I think maybe Real Madrid like to try out, if they have just signed a player for a short period of time, they like to try them maybe ahead of other Spanish players who will be there permanently. I'm not sure, but Arribas would be the one who just services the most, but maybe also the one who has the most competition for his position. So let's hope. It would be fun. I think this is a good time for them, but we also need to remember that Castilla are in a very important promotion battle. So taking these players away from Castilla, is that really a smart move? How much do we benefit from that as a club long term? If we mess up, this great start that Castilla have had, I'm not sure if that's worth it.
Yeah, I mean that's a really good point. I think if you take Arribas out of this team, they're not as good as they are with Arribas, obviously. And if you take Arribas out and put him in the first team, Castilla will definitely suffer.
Yeah.
And it just depends on what Real Madrid's priority is, because if they don't care as much about Castilla getting promoted, then we probably see Arribas play a few games.
Yeah.
In some other some not as significant games, but I don't see Arribas playing more than 3 or 4 games at max, even if that happens.
Yeah, that we would take a lot for that to happen, even 4 or 5 games. Yeah, but let's see. It's it will be interesting, but I think Raul needs them more, and I think that's where they will be playing first and foremost, of course.
Yeah, and they've mentioned Iker Bravo, but he's not even getting minutes for Castilla, so I don't think he's playing for the first team.
It wouldn't actually surprise me if that happened, that it's just suddenly Iker Bravo would turn up at the first team and then scoring a goal, and then I wish I had Sam here, because didn't we have a similar case? I think maybe Reguilón, he went he wasn't that good for Castilla, I think, and then suddenly he was just starting every week with Solari. So I take this with a grain of salt because I'm not 100% sure. I think maybe I mixed it up with another player, but yeah. So could happen. Also, Miguel Gutierrez, he wasn't that great for Castilla, but he's proven that he's had a lot of good games in the top flight. So some players, and also Casemiro, I remember back in time, who wasn't that impressive for Castilla. Then went straight to Porto. Yeah. So happens.
Yeah, I mean, it might happen with Iker. He might, play a lot better with better teammates around. But I think he might actually get a call up because, the depth in the attack isn't that much. But I don't see him actually getting minutes.
No. But Iker is actually kind of a perfect player to call up for the first team. I think that's because, one, he probably is good enough to be able to come off the bench and at least do something if everyone else is out. And also you wouldn't hurt Castilla too much by taking him out. So maybe that's something to consider for Real Madrid now that he's lost his place completely with Castilla.
Yeah. Wasn't there one more striker that Castilla signed? I'm not sure. I think Noel Lopez.
Yeah, Noel Lopez from Deportivo, yes.
What happened to him?
What happened to him? What happened to Alvaro Leiva? Alvaro Leiva came on in this game and played just a few minutes. He looked sharp, but for some reason Raul has some players he favors and some players he doesn't like. So Raul is not that kind of a manager who just gives out minutes to everyone in the squad. I had honestly almost forgotten about Noel Lopez, but yeah, he was. I don't know.
Didn't he play a game?
Well, he has played. He has played, but
I think he was okay. He wasn't bad.
I do think he looks decent. He's pretty quick and pretty good on the ball. He can play as a striker, play as a winger, but yeah, it's just Alvaro Rodriguez has just been too good, and also the system doesn't favor other strikers because Arribas is taking up one of the striker positions in a lot of games.
Do you wanna hear a hot take?
Yeah, sure.
Noel Lopez, I think he played a few games at the start of the season. I think he was better than Iker Bravo. Just on the basis of his performance and his presence, I think he was better than Iker Bravo has been for Castilla this season.
Yeah.
Because he was dropping back, he was helping the team, he was working really hard, and he played really well. He didn't score, but he actually played well, and I don't know why he was dropped. I mean, I know why he was dropped. He was dropped because of Alvaro Rodriguez, but I think he did deserve a few more chances. But yeah, I mean,
but I don't know. Something must have happened to him because, and this is where Real Madrid are pretty poor when it comes to information on injured players and stuff like that. But he has not even been in the squad, according to Transfermarkt, since game week 5, when he did have an assist and played 86 minutes. This is weird. This is something we need to find out. What happened to Noel Lopez?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at my notes for him on Noel Lopez from the game on the 25th of September. I don't know who it was against, but I wrote good things about him, and I was really impressed by him. I don't know why he's not playing anymore.
No, I haven't seen. He hasn't been mentioned on any people I follow. Haven't mentioned him. Since the last year.
Yeah, I almost forgot his name.
This is very weird, but Noel Lopez. Yeah, we will have to do some research before the next game. The forgotten Castilla players. There are a few. There are a few.
Yeah. Let's see what happens. I hope he does get some minutes, man. I really think he's pretty good. He's not obviously he's not insanely good, or he might be. I haven't seen him much, but I think he does deserve a few more minutes. Definitely more than Iker Bravo, because Iker Bravo, I'm looking at my notes for him throughout the season. I gave him a 4.5 rating. I think in a game I don't know which team it was against, but it was in October, and he was really bad. And I think the same thing was in the midweek game. He's just not been very good, and I think Noah Lopez should be above him in the pecking order.
Well, I'm not sure. I need to go back and look at the highlights and stuff to consider who has been better. But I'm not sure if I agree that Noah Lopez should play ahead of him, because to me it seems like Iker Bravo has clearly the biggest potential to be. So I'm always in favor of trying to give those players a little bit more minutes to see if they can fulfill their potential. And I mean, just a few months ago, Iker Bravo was considered one of the top talents in Spain. So
I'm not saying he doesn't have the potential. I think he's overall more talented than Noah Lopez, but just based on form, as I said at the start, just based on form, I think Noah Lopez deserves at least some minutes. If he can't be above Iker Bravo in the pecking order, he does deserve some minutes, because you can say all you want, Iker Bravo hasn't been good, and he's the fact that he's so highly rated by Spanish people, for him to play the way he's playing right now, in my opinion, is just really disappointing. And Noah Lopez has been better, even though he hasn't played that much. So I think he does deserve a few starts, and maybe even at least for now, ahead of him. Yeah. Ahead of Iker Bravo, because Iker Bravo is still very young. I think he's 17 years old.
Yeah, he's very young.
So he can improve. He will get his minutes, I think. But for now, I think Noah Lopez should at least get a few minutes.
And but what's for sure is that Castilla have great depth when it comes to the attacking options, and they have good center backs, good midfielders. Yeah, a lot of options on the wings. It's looking good. This is what you need to play consistently during a long season.
I agree.
All right, that's it, I guess. Almost 1 hour.
I wasn't expecting it to go for this long.
Me neither. It was from such an uneventful game. It was this is a good amount of time to speak. Yeah. All right. Should we just wrap it up there then? And let's hope we get Chris back next time. I think it was pretty close to joining today, but ultimately couldn't. So good job on the hosting role, Hridyam. That was maybe more to come.
Yeah, hopefully. I appreciate it. Thank you.
It's comfortable to not be the host as well. So if you want to take it a little bit, it's I think both me and Chris wouldn't mind.
I'll try my best.
Yeah. All right, but let's say thanks to the listeners, and until next time, Ala Madrid.
Ala Madrid.
Thanks for listening, guys. And before we let you go, we wanted to give a quick shout out to our patrons over on patreon.com/managingmadrid, and specifically to our $10 plus patrons who do so much to support the show. And if you pledge $10 or more, not only do you get access to every single bonus episode we do and get guaranteed responses to your questions, you also get a specific shout out on the podcast. So shout out to these $10 plus patrons as follows: Brandon Alvarez, Willie Reed, Will Sousa, Wade Herring, Tobias Arroyo Botcher, Taleb Salhab, Tahmid Kalam, Sujai Wani, Sumanchu Singh, Sheikh Atiri, Shamil Shabaz Sharapov, Sergio Arispe, Santos Solorzano, Samuli Justin, Samar Z, Said Mahad, Sai Mohan Sasi Kumar, Rodrigo Balmaceda, Rishi D, Phoenix, Peter Powell, Paulo Fierro, Oscar Barrera, Martin Ridman, Magnus Lext, Patrick Diafati, Nico Laxo, Nicholas Moeller, Nick Ribeiro, Mowgli, MJ Diego, Michael Zinberg, Marin Myrtle, Magnus Lex, Logan Stahl, Leon Stavronakis, Kunal Tilakar, Crystal Glass, Kevin Rivera, Jose Cruz, John Fernandez, Jason Fitz, Ian Marley, Graham Gerard, Gary Kohut, Frederick Rantakiro, Frederick Sundros, Faisal Hamdan, S.A. Davisito, Eloy Enriquez, Edward Sossman, Daniel Williams, Con P, Christian Toft, Christian Acosta, Charles Williams, Brendan Powers, Brandon Stevens, Ashik Bashar, Arnab Mukherjee, Arman Gashi, Armando L, Antons Rudenko, Anirudh Singh, Ananya Kumar, Al, Azaz Hussein, Adrian Rios, Adar Zalukovic, Adam Dorsey, Varun, Fabian Moreno, and Daniel Smith. You guys are freaking incredible. Thank you so much for being part of this family. Thank you for the support. We love having you guys here and look forward to continually growing this podcast with you guys. Appreciate it. Take care and Hala Madrid.